All right, if you're a regular member of our audience, you know well that this news outlet has taken a firm stance against injustice in South Carolina, particularly when it comes to judges giving violent criminals slaps on the wrist. This endangers public safety, it re-victimizes victims, and frankly, it erodes public trust in a system that should be holding these violent criminals accountable. For years, we have been pointing out countless examples of this trend that continues to have South Carolina crime statistics soaring through the roof, people. Murders, violent attacks, rapes, all on the rise in the Palmetto State. And one of the reasons is that judges are not doing their job. More importantly, we have focused on the root problem, which is the selection, the political process by which these judges are chosen by well-heeled members of the South Carolina General Assembly, most of whom, doing the selection, are lawyers, who then turn around and benefit from preferential treatment from the very people they appoint, whose jobs they control, whose salaries they control, whose budgets they control. Again, the system is broken. For years, this news outlet has been calling out. In fact, earlier this year, we did a documentary on one of the most egregious examples of this, the case of Bowen Turner, a teen in Orangeburg, South Carolina, who's just completely let off on 3 sexual assaults. 3 alleged sexual assaults, I'm sorry. He only pleaded guilty to 1. Anyway, we've got another story out of Charleston, South Carolina, which, here we go again. Here we go again. And I wanted to briefly tell you the story of Casey Combs and the judge who let him back on the streets of the South Carolina Lowcountry. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about Casey Combs. I want to talk about his conduct before the latest charges that were filed against him that were resolved this month in Charleston. According to a release from the Office of South Carolina Ninth Circuit Solicitor Scarlett Wilson, he'd already been on probation for a pair of domestic violence charges in North Carolina. He had been accused in South Carolina 2 counts of assault resulting in serious bodily injury in 2008, assaulting a female in 2015, assaulting a female again in 2017, threatening women in 2018, violating conditions of restraining orders in 2020 for domestic violence assaults. And all this, again, is before the latest round of charges. But let's talk about those. Those started in April of last year. There was another incident in June of last year, and then there was a third incident this June. Now, in the first incident, you've got harassment. You've got him threatening, cursing, spitting on a woman, even though this woman had, on multiple occasions, blocked him, called the police on him, tried to keep him away from her. He still went after her. Second victim, I want to read this directly from this release because this is just unbelievable stuff. Again, this is in June of last year. Combs, quote, grabbed her hair, dragged her to the floor, punched her several times in the face, grabbed her phone and said she should, quote, call the pigs when he left. He then strangled the victim and before leaving the residence, spit on her, threw the phone at her. Let's fast forward to this June of this year. Followed this next female victim into her bedroom. Started punching her in the face until she fell to the ground. Then he began kicking her. While in the fetal position, Combs stomped on the victim's head numerous times. He then strangled the victim with one hand and used the other to smother her face. Again, threw the phone at her on his way out. Apparently spitting on people, throwing their phones at them is this guy's MO after he violently assaults them. Now, South Carolina Circuit Court Judge Bentley Price sentenced Combs to 14 years in a South Carolina prison, which you think, good, deserves it. That would be justice. And it would have been if the sentence had actually been carried out. But here's the thing. You know what judges do in South Carolina when they want to let somebody off? When they don't want that person to be held accountable for their actions? They suspend the sentence. And that's exactly what this judge did. Bentley Price, despite what you just heard, despite the mountain of previous charges involving violence against women, suspends this guy's sentence, gives him 5 years probation. 5 years probation. And let me tell you something else. That was after the prosecutor in this case asked for 6 to 10 years. And that was after the victims in this case came to court, had to relive what they went through, asking for a tougher sentence. He went against the prosecutors. He went against the victims. And he let this guy walk free. And again, I'll tell you, people, so the only question now is, when is this guy going to do it again? Because let me tell you, it will happen. It will happen. I know we've got the defense bar is going to come in here and say, oh, well, if he messes up again, he'll get that full sentence. And that's true. If this guy messes up again, he will have to serve the entirety of that sentence. But here's the problem. What if the next time he messes up, somebody dies? You want to riddle me that, defense bar? Riddle me that, all right? What happens if the next time this guy messes up, somebody dies? Again, if we want the same outcomes in South Carolina, by all means, we should continue to elect the same lawmakers who perpetuate this same system by electing the same judges over and over and over again. If we want to keep re-victimizing people, if we want to keep eroding the safety of our communities, then by all means, let's just keep doing what we're doing in South Carolina. But if you've had enough, if you're sick of crap like this, then it is time to stand up. You need to call your lawmaker today and tell them to fix this broken system. And I'm talking about passing tougher bond rules. I'm talking about passing tougher sentences with mandatory minimums for violent criminals. And most importantly, I'm talking about throwing out the corrupt method of choosing judges in this state where South Carolina lawmakers handpick judges who do their bidding. It is time to start over. And again, you can go to the mainstream media if you want to hear the nuts and bolts of these stories, but if you want to hear the real story behind what's really going on and you want accountability, come here. We'll continue to call them out.